welcome to this week's Community Office Hours. Thank you so much for joining us this week. So if this is your first time in our Community Office Hours, just a few ground rules. If you're not speaking, please stay on mute. That just helps us when our presenters are presenting, and it doesn't disrupt their flow and what they're showing. So make sure that you're on mute. There will be space for questions after the demos. Feel free to drop them in the text chat. So if you hover over on the if this is your first time in Discord, if you hover over onto the top right-hand corner, you should see a little chat icon. Click on that, and that's our office hours chat. Feel free just to drop questions on there throughout the session, and I will read them out. Otherwise, you can also go off mute and ask questions that way as well. And yes, this week is really exciting because we have our friends from 1Password giving a demo on how on a really cool Gitpod integration. I don't want to spoil it. I'll let Flo do a bit of explanation on that. But when I saw it myself, I was super impressed, and I'm really excited to see how the community sees this, and maybe use it in the future, and maybe potentially have some kind of integration at some point in the future. So that's super exciting. So with that, if there's no questions or anything, I will hand over to Flo from 1Password to introduce himself and to kick off this demo.
Yeah, thanks, Pauline. So my name is Floris. I'm based in the Netherlands, and I build developer products at 1Password. Now, you might already be familiar with 1Password, and 1Password is mostly known for auto-filling passwords in the browser. But we recently started to expand that to the day-to-day developer workflows as well, and to basically bring you the same kind of UX and the same kind of principles that 1Password is known for, but also now to your terminal or IDE or your Git clients or wherever you are doing your day-to-day development work. So you store your secrets in a central end-to-end encrypted store, and then you use those on demand in whatever workflow they're needed. So in March, we launched our native SSH integration fully in 1Password, as well as a 1Password CLI with biometric support. And this lets you store your secrets and your private keys and all the sensitive data in 1Password, and then approve usage for those secrets using your Touch ID, your Apple Watch even, or Windows Hello. And so in September, we took that a step further, and we released our Git commit signing functionality together with GitHub, and that really completed our the entire Git workflow, but the standard Git workflow. But for some users, and like you here in this call, some of the Git and development workflows have changed a little bit because they're now moving to the cloud as well with tools like Gitpod. So that means that the developer tools that you use, they need to accommodate to this change as well. So because how do you manage secrets in a remote environment? There's some challenges there involved. And one example there, and that's a very sensitive one, is your Git signing key. That's really one that you don't wanna have leaked. Ideally, you want to keep that local at all times and really have control over where it gets used, because if you don't do that well, that kind of defeats the purpose of commit signing, because everyone can impersonate you. And what's really cool there is because Git commit signing already since 2021 can now be done with SSH keys. That means that you'll also get support for SSH agent forwarding. And if you're not familiar with that, I'll explain that. I'll explain that later. But this is particularly powerful if you combine that with the SSH agent and with Gitpod, because that can really solve the problem of still keeping your key local, but still having access to use that key in a remote environment like Gitpod. Yeah, and because that allows you to sign Git commits with your within your Gitpod workspace. Yeah, so all using Touch ID or Apple Watch or biometrics, and yeah, even though it's within the remote Gitpod workspace, the private key never leaves the 1Password, the local 1Password process. And I'll give a demo now. Let me share my screen here. All right, so I'm in. Can you all see my screen now?
Yes, that's good.
So I'm in Gitpod here with my workspaces. So I'll open one here, test workspace. And yeah, so this is currently only limited to desktop IDEs. So that's, but we're also looking into doing this fully in the browser. But for now, this is desktop IDEs only. So I'm going to open my VS Code app with this workspace. Oh wait, haha. First, let's start with adding an SSH key. So here I have my SSH keys in Gitpods. I don't have any configured yet, so that's why it didn't work. So I'll in the Gitpod settings create a new SSH key, and as you can see here, there's a little 1Password icon in the public key text area. And if I now click this, I get prompted to unlock 1Password, and I have the SSH keys that I already have in 1Password listed here. But if you don't have one yet, you can also create a key right from the browser. And you can do it with ED25519 or with RSA, even change the bit length. But I'm going to use ED25519 because that's the fastest and most modern standard. I actually already have a key, so I'm going to use that. That's my Git authentication key. So I click on it, click OK to fill it in, and it fills my public key in and a title, and I'll add that now. So now let's try this again. And now I get prompted with biometrics to allow VS Code to use my Git authentication key for SSH. And if I put my fingerprint on the reader, it now logs me into my Gitpod workspace. So I have here a README, and I'm connected, and I can start a terminal. And now, because I have SSH agent SSH agent forwarding enabled, I can now run any SSH command within my Gitpod workspace. And now it says, hey, it logs me into GitHub. And that is because I added this snippet to my local SSH config. So here I'm saying every time I talk to Gitpod, enable SSH agent forwarding. What that does is even when I'm in a remote workspace, every SSH request there gets forwarded back over the SSH agent socket, which is this one. This is the 1Password SSH agent socket, and that ends up in my 1Password process, and I can then I also have Touch ID. So that gives me Touch ID within my remote setting as well. So now let's see how this works with Git commit signing. Now, so what I need to do to set this up, let me clear this out, is I need to tell my local, my remote Git config to use for commit signing SSH. So that's what powers it now. And then I need to say which key I want to use. So that's user.signing key. And I'm gonna load the public key from 1Password. That's this one. Copy. I'm gonna press Command C to copy the public key, paste it in the terminal. All right. So now let's see it in action. If I now make a change here, and then commit this, and then I'm going to use -s to say that I want this commit to be signed. It's now prompting me again but this time to use my signing key, because that's the one I have configured on GitHub for SSH commit signing. And if I put my finger on the fingerprint, it signs my commit, and yeah, now it's signed. And now if I push this, it doesn't work yet, and that's because it says permission denied, and that's because I have revoked HTTPS access from my Gitpod workspace to GitHub. So if I go to my Gitpod settings, Gitpod can only read my email, so it cannot push on my behalf over HTTPS. But luckily, there's an easy change there. Because I'm using an SSH agent forwarding setup, I can say git config global. I'm gonna say use SSH instead of HTTPS. And now if I push, it's gonna use SSH, and it successfully pushed it to my GitHub repository. So now let's see if the signing actually worked, because that's what we're all here for. So if I refresh this, I see hello from Gitpod 1 minute ago. Let's see, let's have a look at that commit. This one, and here you can see the green verified badge that we all really want. And it says using this SSH key fingerprint, this commit was signed with a verified signature. And now if I exit my Gitpod workspace, all access is gone now. So there's no secret anymore in the remote environment. It's only when I reconnect to it that the pushing and the git commit signing works. And yeah, because this is SSH, this means you can also do, for example, do an SFTP upload within a Gitpod workspace, or you can connect to another VM within a Gitpod workspace, or even do stuff. I haven't tested this personally, but I think it could work. Do something like database tunneling within a Gitpod workspace. All lots of cool use cases there. And the private key never leaves the 1Password process. So that was my demo.
Awesome. Oh, that was awesome, Flo. Thank you so much for that. We have a few questions. Jason is actually answering them so well, but I thought we could I could ask you them all as well, so that people who are watching this as a recording can also get the answers. So the first question is from Jimmy, who's asked, are SSH keys only available in 1Password 8?
Yeah. So this is a pretty new functionality, and it's only available on 1Password 8. But the benefit is there, though, that we released it on Linux and Windows and on Mac all at the same time. So if you're on multiple OSs, then it's the exact same experience. So that is pretty sweet.
Awesome. And I had a question, which was, do we need to have a plan, i.e. be a paying customer with 1Password for this to work?
Yeah, so all the functionality is there's no extra cost, but you do have to be a 1Password member. That is the case, yes.
Yeah, that's actually one thing that's really cool, is that developer tools are included in the normal subscription. And I noted it in the chat, but developers, if it's a new account, can get 50% off the first year, which is cool.
Awesome. We'll also add that to the description so people can follow up with that. Axon asks, can we use op-ssh-sign as well?
Yeah, so this is a question from someone who's already familiar with the functionality. So for local use cases, the 1Password app ships with a binary to have even less, to make the setup even easier. So yes, you can use this op-ssh sign binary as well, also in a remote setting. But yeah, you actually don't need it because if you have SSH keygen, which ships with OpenSSH, with SSH agent forwarding, the SSH auth sock environment variable already gets set when you have SSH agent forwarding enabled. So the extra benefit of the OP/SSH sign binary is not really there. And most remote environments, they either already have OpenSSH installed, or it's really easy to install it.
Cool. Axon also said he'll try it soon. Awesome stuff. Lou has asked, could you talk about any Gitpod product changes that you wish Gitpod had to support these types of functionalities for you? I've just GitHub issue, but you can talk about that.
Yeah, so I actually created already an issue for that because as you can see, so this already works, and without there's no real integration yet. It's just because SSH agent forwarding already does some of the heavy lifting there. But as you probably have noticed during the call, there were quite some setup steps needed here. There were some git config commands to run there, and what happens then if you have multiple Gitpod workspaces. So that there is some extra work there, and also on the discovery side, and a more native integration between Gitpod and 1Password would really help there to basically iron out that process. And a second thing that would be super cool is if we can, because this only works for desktop IDEs, if we can do this fully in the browser. That would be really amazing to also support the Gitpod users who really want to stay in the browser. So yeah, those are the categories I see. And if anyone here has more ideas, I'd love to chat about that.
Awesome. Lucky for you, we've got 2 PMs listening in. I was going to say, does anyone else have any more questions for Flo or 1Password right now? I can see a few people typing, so I'll just give it a second. And I don't know, Flo, I seem to remember you had another demo that you showed me, but I might be making that up. I seem to remember another thing you had showed me, not just the SSH stuff.
Mm.
You know what? It might have been someone else. It's fine, but yeah.
I don't remember.
Cool. Any more? Oh yeah, feel free if you don't want to type on the chat. You can go off mute now as well if you want to ask a question. I can see several people typing, so I'm just waiting. We've got another one. SSH is only for accessing Linux terminal remotely, right?
Yeah, well, that's the most famous use case for SSH, is to do log into a remote server to get a shell there and to do some administrative work like restarting an app or logging into a database. But there's actually way more use cases with SSH than just the classic sysadmin log into a server use case. And one of them is, of course, Git, and that's actually the most used use case for SSH, because I don't know if you guys have paid attention to the GitHub Universe event from last week, but they announced 94 million GitHub users there, and they all need to authenticate to GitHub to push code, and a lot of them are using SSH. So actually, SSH for Git is probably bigger than SSH for SSHing into for doing sysadmin work. And then it's also just the backbone for many other technologies. Every time a server needs to talk to another server, there's quite a chance that it's using SSH under the hood. Also, for example, SFTP to upload files to a CDN or whatever. That's also using SSH under the hood. And now, yeah, so since 2021, Git is now using SSH. There's a completely new use case for SSH, and that is signing Git commits. So you don't need GPG keys anymore to sign your Git commits.
Nice. Cool. I hope that answered your question. I also just wanted to say, I wrote this as a comment earlier, but a couple of months ago, one of our community members created like a hacky solution for Git signing commits. And so it's really awesome to see this more seamless experience. Obviously, there's still a few things that you need to configure, but compared to the hacky thing that they had come up with. This is really cool to follow up.
Sorry, my internet connection is a bit flaky. Like, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm reading through the issue and it's funny because, yeah, like 1Password Gitpod integration. I'm just thinking to myself why we can't just have this as an official integration for Gitpod and like open that conversation, because like there are you put some stuff in here about like some ways that we could smooth it out, and certainly happy to talk about those, about how we could do that.
Yeah,
like,
Lou, I was just about to say.
Yeah, like we should just. Yeah, because I'm thinking this is something. So for context, like one thing that we're thinking about right now is like trying to better enable the community with regards to integrations and things. Like we don't do a particularly great job at making it clear like how you can extend Gitpod and in ways that you can do that, but we really want to improve that. So to be honest, like a lot of this stuff, like we want to make it a bit more self-serve for the community. Like if there's integrations that the community is kind of building or thinks are cool, like we'd love to sort of integrate that with the sort of the product and documentation and work with you on that for sure. Like if it already works, like, and we can highlight that for the community, let's do it. Like let's
Yeah, I was just
part of me just said like clearly our sort of docs and the way that we structure this online is not doing a great job, because like we want to get to the point where community people can just raise a PR like for the docs and we can collaborate and just get it going. So yeah.
I was gonna say, Lou, that we actually have an open conversation right now with Michael and Flo and Jason. They're all talking, so we are in the process of doing something there. Unfortunately, I'm not looking into that, but that is something we should do more of. So that's really cool. Thank you. Awesome. Any more comments from you, Flo? Before I move on?
Yeah. So we're also gonna do a blog post that outlines these instructions. So you also have a written version of that for those who are interested. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Cool. I actually, sorry for calling you out, Jimmy, but I saw your comment on off topic about 1Password. I might quickly go through them now as the 1Password team is all here. So the first question is, so do you know if vaults can be moved above categories now? Is that a 1Password feature? Vaults?
Yeah. So those are all things for 1Password.
Okay. So they're all very specific questions about the 1Password product. Okay. You know what?
Yes.
We'll do that one ASAP. Cool. All good. All good. I think you tagged Jason anyway, so you can follow up there. Does anyone have any questions about 1Password and the Gitpod a potential Gitpod integration, not an official one, whilst we're all here on the call? Oh, we've got one more person. Just
No, I
typing.
think it would be it'd certainly be very cool to have a story about 1Password for environment variables and stuff. I think for so many people using Gitpod for a personal use case, like having good sort of hygiene around this makes a ton of sense. And like, yeah, you can put stuff in environment variables, but like really this is not a great solution. And like, I think for a lot of people, especially individual devs, like they probably just like chucking secrets and SSH keys around everywhere, and it would be really nice to have a guide here to kind of talk about like good hygiene for security, even in a personal context. That'd be very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. We should definitely collaborate on that. Like I said, I think there's a few conversations going on right now. Cool. I don't think there's any more questions from the community here, so I will. Actually, there's one more, and I think it is actually quite a good question. Can you describe again about how 1Password is significant? Why is it important? I guess for people who don't really use password managers.
Yeah, so we always say at least just use a password manager. It doesn't even have to be 1Password. We prefer that you do just have at least one password manager, because the alternative is either using the same password everywhere because there's only limited basically it's hard to remember a lot of passwords for your browser. So don't reuse your password, because if there's one breach in one website, which happens a lot, unfortunately still happens a lot, and your password leaks, then you don't want that access to all your other services also is leaked. But it's super hard to remember a lot of passwords, and you also want to use long and complicated passwords. So that's just not what the human brain is good at. So a password manager really solves that well. And you just need to remember one password that you use locally, and then that gives you access to a vault, and that vault can contain all the unique passwords for every single service. And you can also easily generate a unique password for every different website. And it also alerts you, so for if there's a breach, or if you still use the same password somewhere. So you can also store other things on there, like a credit card, and that really easily automatically fills in the browser. Things like your driver's license, anything that you don't want to have somewhere on your local disk somewhere. You can store that encrypted in 1Password. But now also, since this year, for developer tools to really make your development workflow smoother and more secure.
Awesome. That was great. Should have started with that, actually, because a lot of people are like, what is 1Password? I guess I made an assumption that everyone knew what 1Password and the password manager is used for. Thank you for asking that question. Some really good comments here in the chat. I have to say my favorite one is from Axon. You just need to remember 1Password. That is brilliant. Love that. Awesome. I don't think there's any more questions. So I think we can wrap up here. Actually, one last one from me. If people want to find out more about 1Password, or maybe join a community around 1Password, where's the best place to go?
Yeah, so we have a Slack workspace, but yeah, you can take that one, Jason.
Yeah, we have our docs, of course, and we have a 1Password developer Slack. We're always wanting people to come on the Slack. We're testing out some really cool features. Like right now, we're testing out a thing, we're calling it shell plugins, the ability to log into any CLI with, again, biometrics. Not any CLI. Select CLIs, more being added every week. So yeah, I'm actually running that beta. So if you want to come, I will gladly invite you. And yeah, and then also 1password.com/developers, and then our developer docs, which you can find.
Amazing. Cool. Thank you both so much for this demo and hanging out with the community today. And I think we'll wrap it up there. Again, if you want to find out more about 1Password, head over to their community. Cool. Let's wrap this up.